So you might remember last year another presentation called STC Best Practices. So don't worry, I won't repeat exactly what was said last year, not even remotely exactly. I have a different presentation, but I think the goal is probably the same. What's the goal of such presentations? Actually, is to try to give some hints about the question we should ask ourselves, and I'm sure most of you and most of us are asking this question every day. What can we do better? How can we get better? This is a very good question. It's very healthy. Problem is not the question, it's the answer, obviously. So we will, in this presentation, focus on 5 areas which are interdependent, this is not an exhaustive list. We could really make weeks of workshop about how to get better. We are not going to go that far. So, as you can see, those have an influence on project quality if you look a bit at what's written. So, innovation, timeline considerations, communication, quality in a broader way of seeing that, and well, what is happening post-project. So perhaps a bit of history. So don't worry, I won't be long. 10 years ago, there was something called the STC pilot project. 2009, 2019. Preparing this presentation, I was struck at seeing that it was already 10 years ago. You might remember our certification director, Rachel Deschler, yesterday, who opened the workshop. She was at that time actually in charge of this effort after it was initiated by a colleague of ours, Phil Blackden, if you remember him, any of you. And so the illustration here are the 2 persons looking in different directions but at the same thing. So project processing, so certification as we call it in our verbiage, and then surveillance of organizations, so DOA team leader teams and PCM and experts teams on the oversight. So, and they are not particularly working together, they are working at the same place using probably similar tools, looking at the same things, but it was something we tried to organize in a way that we could get better in. And I want to spend a few words on that. So this effort lasted for several years, trying to know how we could interface those 2 groups of people, those 2 teams inside EASA. Something that you might actually know very well now are those statements of satisfactions and feedback of the PCM, which are going to the DOA team leader. So the experts are giving a statement of satisfaction and the PCM is giving his feedback inside of the technical visa. So this is helping the DOA team leader establish his scoreboard. So all those words I'm mentioning, statement of satisfaction, scoreboard, feedback, PCM, this was defined back then by this group of people. And this is something that for us now are routine. This is everyday life of a PCM expert applicant. You will know that at the end of each project, this is going to be used. Those were innovations defined at the time. And we have not stopped asking the question, how can we get better? So we have further developments which are on the way or which have been implemented. So of course, PCM Focal Points. This is something which was decided at some point to be implemented. The level of involvement, which is this concept some of you have already implemented, some not. So I don't want to go into details into that. We have had last year and the years before presentations on dedicated time slots for that. I'm sure that at the next DOA workshop you will have a very good presentation about it, especially because I was told some days ago that Part 21 was adopted by the European Commission. So this new Part 21 with LOI, meaning that actually the entry into force of this new Part 21 is weeks away. So we are in May. During the summer, everything will be in place. I don't want to spoil, of course, all the surprises, which are no surprises. You know what will be there. You know that there will be new privileges you can ask for. So be ready. This summer, you will be able to send your applications for the new privileges if you consider that you are in the position to ask for them. But enough of it. I'm not an expert for that. And as I said, we don't want to make a dedicated time slot for LOI. So there will be official communication from EASA about it at a later point, as soon as it's published in all the languages of the European Union. So there is a bit of administrative work behind this adoption decision, but you will hear about it. So CEPIAC, of course, you know, we are all in the position now to use CEPIAC. So I will encourage you to use CEPIAC and to make sure that everyone who is in the position to use it really does it. One big advantage, I don't want to make a CEPIAC presentation either, is that it's killing emails. It's killing this huge number of emails, and I can tell you I'm happy when an email is not coming through the email channel, rather when you are using it in CEPIAC. It's way easier for me to deal with. The Synergy project, this is again trying to enhance the communication between the certification teams, or PCM and experts, and the DOA team leader team. So we have a huge effort there, and we have already implemented several pilot projects with pilot organizations. We are going to improve it. Of course, something that's very fresh, the STC coordinator for large aeroplanes, so trying to get more standardization. Here I am. Nice to meet you, and I hope we are going to be very productive together. I will be able to help you as much as possible. So I refer to my presentation of yesterday. And CT 2020, everyone knows now what this roadmap is about. Now we have CT 2020 roadmap 2.0, which is ongoing since we have closed the first phase. So I want just to spend a few words on that so that you know what's coming. As I mentioned yesterday, the CT 2020 roadmap was seeing the end of the decision process with the implementations phase starting at the beginning of April. So the idea was to really get the goals which were set to be fulfilled. Nevertheless, there is still work to do. So there are 3 targets I've mentioned there. I don't want to go too deep into details, but what I want to tell you is that this particular green box on the bottom left is absolutely impacting you, because we want to have synergies, more detailed, more clear and more efficient between PCM, DOA team leaders and experts. So this is, as you can see, this effort from 10 years ago has never ceased. We are just trying to get better. So coming back to what is on the first slide. There is a dedicated team which is taking care of this particular CT 2020 Roadmap 2.0. And I'm very happy to see that we have a lot of topics there that are absolutely meeting the core of the questions we have every day. So competence management, knowledge management, CT processes, in particular OSD and synergies. So this is something that is really going to address all those questions we have on a daily basis, how to get better. So I'm letting you find out which book and which story I'm referring to. I have a couple of pictures that illustrate my guidelines I want to give you, and I try somehow to let's say, give you some ideas about how to cope with unexpected events while you are processing a project. So, good preparation is paramount. Of course, the point here is trying to come as much as possible with a good preparation to EASA. So last year, there was a very good presentation from my colleague Ciro Pirone, and he presented this particular graphic. So this depiction of what is coming before EASA application, what is it you need to consider? So I won't go in depth there. We have this presentation on our YouTube channel. It was on the last year's workshop. Identification of a change to TC up to additional classification criteria in the guidance material of 21A91. He detailed that very well, and I must tell you, please have a look at it again, because this is something where you probably discover, looking at that checklist-wise, that will be highlighted by one of our experts or our PCMs if you might have missed or which have slipped through the filter if you don't do it in a very systematic way. I trust most of you are doing it. Nevertheless, it's good to have this put on one slide with this particular depiction. It's helping a lot. So, don't forget, of course, we are happy to help you whenever you have a question about gray area. Is it really major or is it minor? But please keep in mind, classification is a core competence. We expect you to be able to classify change. So please use whatever material you have at your disposal, and in particular the guidance material to 2191. And the specific requirements which are in the published certification review items. So I know yesterday we mentioned this CRE topic again. So I don't want to repeat what Ludovic Aron, our department manager, mentioned, but be careful about watching out what is on our website. We are publishing regularly new cert memos, new CREs, new special conditions. Make sure that you know about it. I know this is not the easiest task, but we have a very high trust in you, and we consider that you are up to the challenge. So make us proud, that's very nice. So time is flying, of course. So what I will try to tell you is whenever you come to us with a project, you might know about those gray areas, possible issues, particular trouble that might come up, things which probably are not so straightforward. Please highlight them to us as soon as possible. And if it's even, I would say, better, would be to propose solutions directly. We are very happy to get the whole package at once. So expert to expert, meaning applicant's expert to EASA expert, direct communication, to me, is something that's absolutely a golden way of working. Of course, I know that you don't always know directly the name of the expert, but please make sure that the PCM does not have to transfer one message to an expert and then the expert sending the message to the PCM back. To me, this is possible to work this way, but this is less efficient than if you are able to establish a communication line directly to the expert. So I know this is not always easy at the very beginning of the project, but try to implement that, because this is really about time here, and time is for all of us really flying at high speed. So it's not a very popular topic, but there is just one thing I want to highlight here. My colleague and myself, when we are looking into a project, we need to get familiarized with that. That's the first time we look into that. The problem is that we have a lot of projects, and then we ask you to do a particular list of activities, to answer to our comments. It's taking a couple of weeks, perhaps sometimes a couple of months. When we get your answers, when we get your documents, time passed by, and we need to go into the project again to familiarize again with this project. So the more often we do these iterations, the more often we need to re-familiarize with that. And so this is actually a problem of efficiency. So if we have less review sessions, we have less familiarization session before, and then we are saving time and making higher efficiency score, I would say, if I can mention it like that. So I know this is a matter of getting things done as efficient as possible, but this is really something, please keep that in mind. So what is it all about at the end of the day? We need to get documents from you. It was mentioned, I think, very fast earlier in this workshop that we are trying to keep a 4 weeks period to review a few documents. So please give us the documents as soon as possible. Sometimes if something is really, I would say, very hot potato, sometimes we can even have a look at the draft documents very early rather than waiting for the very last signature on it to be done, but it's really at the end of the project, and then we have a trouble because we have a lot of documents to deal with. And even more actually than we would expect to be able to deal with. So whatever happens, I mean, of course, again, unpopular topic, but please be able to define a recovery plan whenever EASA tells you, we are sorry, but for whatever reasons, we are not able to review your documents in the coming 2 weeks, where you are supposed to release the aircraft. Perhaps it's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. So I don't say it's happening all the time. As we mentioned already, 4 weeks is an average time duration we are usually making, but please be aware of this risk, which is really a reality. So communication. There are a lot of trainings about communication, a lot of talks about it. There are beautiful TED Talks on it. I can just invite you to have a look at that. I'm not going to make anything theoretical about communication here. I just want to give you really a few bullet points about what is really important to me, to my colleagues, to everyone who is involved into the project. And I suppose this is not much different for your organization. But I rather say it twice or if it's necessary to come into the mind of everyone. So be clear about the target dates. Very often we get projects applied for and we don't get target dates. We don't know what priority to set to those projects. The certification program needs to be clear, concise, and complete. What do I mean with that? So especially it's addressing the next bullet point. Please try to describe in few words what you are doing, what the pre-mode status is, and what the post-mode status will be. Even if it's not absolutely giving all the details, it's fine. The point is that someone who doesn't know the project needs to understand it. So cross-references are very helpful if we want to get the very detailed information, but it's not as helpful as a couple of explanations if we want to understand the project being said. And of course, again, if you have a direct line to the expert, you reduce the risk of misunderstanding. I am not personally an expert for avionics. If you tell me something about ADSB out, I'm sorry, but I might very well say something wrong without intent to my expert, and then you might completely understand something else than what you meant. So please, again, try to get direct communication. It's efficient and it's clear. Then, thinking about the tools we are using, I mentioned that before, please use CPIAC. It's efficient, it's easy. I must say it's easier than before, and it's getting better every day. So this is something that's really important. If the benefit is recognized here internally, you will have a focal point in charge of your projects, a single PCM for all the project dealing with your organization. But this is something where we need to see the benefit for that. And of course, soon for all, I mentioned that earlier in the presentation, Part 21 is coming, and level of involvement in the CP. This is a very important tool to gain time on the whole project length. I'm clear that at the initial phase of the project, it's taking more time. It's a bit of an administrative burden, but you are really increasing tremendously the quality of communication about your project details. Close coordination with the OA team leader. We have the synergy effort ongoing, and for important issues, of course, we are issue increase. So all those are communication tools. Be clear about that. This is not a matter of making things different technically. It's a matter of communication. So, quality. Oh, it's a very vast topic. So, I'm not sure it's the best picture for that, but what I want to express with that is preparation, competencies. So, stay steady on your feet. Try to make sure that you know what you are talking about. I'm sure you all are able to do so, but we all are sometimes in a situation where we get surprised by a technical issue, and we need really to get more information to know what is going on. It's leading to the experts and PCM feedback I mentioned at the very beginning, which was an innovation 10 years ago, which now is routine. So planning and communication, applicable requirements, and compliance requirements are the three topics which are being assessed by the certification team, and for which there will be a feedback, and for which you will have an input in your scoreboard from the DOA team leader. I mentioned the DOA team leader so often. Please don't forget him. I know he is not directly in the certification project. If there is anything that's not going as expected, if there is anything where you feel that it might be mentioned during the audit, so please don't forget you're going to be audited. Please keep the DOA team leader in the loop. It's better to have him upfront informed rather than trying to organize and retrieve the communication during the audit. There is no much time for that during an audit. So please have him upfront informed. And the STC coordinator can help in a case of something where you don't know further. So what is happening after the project? Well, that's a very good question. So please try to be future-oriented. What do I mean with that? What do I mean with being wise? It's a bit of trying to hook onto the book, of course, but continue the worthiness obligation. So be wise and do what you are supposed to do, of course. So I won't repeat continue the worthiness topics today because we have had a presentation on continue the worthiness for STC holders on 2016, on 2017, and on 2018. I think it's enough for today. So please check on our website the information that is available, and on our YouTube channel we have the presentations there. After the project is before the project. Well, I hope at least for you. This is your business. So you are always closing a project and starting another one afterwards. So the key word here is lessons learned. If something is not going as expected, if it's going better than expected, if it's going worse than expected, please remember that. Communicate about it internally in your organization or externally with your customers, your subcontractors, or with us. Again, PCM experts, DOA team leader, you can always go back to us outside of a project and say, by the way, we found out something did not go as expected. We would like to see if we can do things better next time. I know this is an exercise which is taking time and energy. So I would like, of course, to tell you, invest this time, invest this energy, because there is afterwards really something coming back to you, and the next project will be better. So my special thanks go to Mr. Lewis Carroll. And I don't know if we have time for questions. I think perhaps we have time for one question, if we have one.
Yes, there is a question from Mr. Steenberger. I don't know if you can read it.
I've seen that. So where are the certification items? Where can we find them? So on our website, we have a very efficient search engine field on the top right. So you can look for special conditions, you can look for equivalent safety findings, deviations, and any kind of publications. Otherwise, you can navigate through the organigram. So we will answer to that in a very consolidated manner, in a written form. But what I can tell you is please have a look at our website. Our publications are there, all highlighted, and it's quite easy to handle. That's what I can answer to this question. Angela, there is a question there. Oh, yeah. Mr. from RUAG, I see we have a question there. I'm trying to see you. It's not easy.
Hello. Hello,
Yes.
Nicola. The reason why this question is popping up every STC and every design organization workshop again is that it's obviously not so clear. Yes, we are able to use the search, but what we are looking for is just a list. Just a list would already be sufficient of all special conditions. If you just have to search, I just did a search, and if you just type in certification review item, you get like 2,000 hits, but not what you're looking for. So the answer that it all can be found is not so obvious.
Thank you. I have noted this comment, and I can tell you your comment has been made last year and the year before and the year before. So we are trying to get better. This was the first slide, and I can tell you this is ongoing. We are trying to improve your experience on our website. We are trying to improve your experience with the special condition publications and other publications. It did not get forgotten, and we are trying to get better. But I'm sorry, I don't have a confirmation or any kind of decision that will answer directly your comment right now. But we don't forget it, and we are actually working on that every day, trying to find better ways. I will just send you back to the comment of our department manager yesterday, Ludovic Aron. He was very complete about this particular issue. So I will just stop here. Thank you very much.